What is going on, GBA? I am the Confusion, and I am here with three amazing people. We have Dan, aka aDrive.
Yo, what's up, guys?
We got Spastic One.
What's up?
And we have Bulky Cotton Candy, aka Skylar. He's not feeling too well, so he's kind of just going to be listening on the sideline, but he's here. And and basically, we're going to sit down. This is Around the Rhyhorn, back from Season 4, now in Season 6. And we're just going to sit here and talk to you guys about a lot of different things. Right now, we have a theme for Around the Rhyhorns now. And this week's theme, we'll actually be talking about everything that's new and unknown. Being that this is a pre-draft, we're just going to get right into this and talk about our main topics. So we've got two of them. Our first main topic is Volcanion. Volcanion is a brand new Pokemon to the league, brand new Pokemon in general. So because it is draftable, we kind of just want to sit down and talk about this threat. It is in Tier 1, so let's just start talking about it. Whoever wants to start talking about it.
Volcanion is going to be interesting to see this season because, it's seen a bit of testing in Smogon, but it hasn't been tested in league-type format. With Hoopa and Hoopa Unbound, we've seen it in other leagues, but this is Volcanion's very first appearance, so we don't know how it's going to stack up in the counter-team format. It's a powerhouse in Smogon with those ridiculous base stats, and it's pretty wide move pool, but again, counter-team format. If Landorus
also, I like to
allowed.
compare it. I like comparing Volcanion to Heatran because they're kind of similar. Their typing is actually really, really good. Water Fires actually can be very beneficial typing. It has that immunity to water. It has the same special attack stat as Heatran at 130. They kind of act very similar as bulky offense, and I think that's something that in a draft league format is very important. So I actually do see Volcanion doing really, really well.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm actually not a fan of Volcanion. I do think it's a good Pokemon. I think it's proven itself so far in its limited playtime through standard Smogon battling. In the Choice Specs variant, I've seen people run Assault Vest, and you can run like a mix set with like Flame Charge and stuff to boost your speed. But there's a couple key weaknesses to Volcanion, which turns me off personally. Now, am I saying it's a bad Pokemon? No, by no means am I saying it's bad. But there's a couple of core things here. The fact that it does have a Stealth Rock weakness does kind of set it back a little bit. Let's not forget about its 70 base speed, which is really slow. And in a lot of cases, you're going to invest in that special attack stat, and you're going to want to invest in your HP for bulk, or maybe your special defense if you're running an AV variant or whatever it is. Unless you're running full speed, you're going to get outpaced by a lot of what's going. And in the GBA, your opponent's going to know exactly what you're bringing. So chances are they're going to understand that you're going to be bringing most often a specially offensive Volcanion set, or maybe even like a bulky support set. I could see like some Will-O-Wisp shenanigans, but either way, the draft league format has shown that there's a couple core components to each team that makes a team very effective. One of those is a good stealth rocker. Another one of those is a fast electric type, which absolutely destroys Volcanion. And then the last part is every good GBA team, in my opinion, has a good ground type Pokemon as well. And that's one of Volcanion's core weaknesses. So again, by no means am I saying it's a bad Pokemon. It's got a great ability. It's got great, stat distribution. But it is a little bit slow, and it is untested in the format. So oftentimes we see Pokemon that are, looked at as being super duper good in the format, or would be good on paper, but then they don't perform. I think Clefable is a great example of this. One of the best Pokemon in the game. Yet I have yet to see Clefable really do a whole lot in the GBA format over the last couple seasons.
That's very true. Not worrying about what this thing does, because a lot of people don't really know what it's going to do in the league type format. It does have 110 base attack. It could go somewhere else, but otherwise, it does have that Stealth Rock's weakness and all that. So now we're going to kind of switch into our second main topic, which is the tier changes. We actually have a good bunch of tier changes. Pokemon kind of switching tiers, moving around, everyone's dancing. So let's kind of take a look at these tier changes. So looking at just the first ones, we have Chansey and Goodra moving down. Chansey I get. Chansey's like trying to be Blissey, but at the same time,
Chansey's better than Blissey. Hold on, wait, time out.
I was about to say, hold on. I'm fairly sure Dan has something to say about that.
Go on, though. Chansey's better than Blissey, but go on.
I don't know. What do you think about Cresselia? Is Cresselia kind of doing its job as Chansey?
They're not. I don't even think they're not the same Pokemon though. I don't think it's fair to compare Chansey and Cresselia together because Cresselia is, for one, a mixed wall that has the opportunity to set up and sweep with Calm Mind.
It can set up. That's the difference.
It's just got insane stats all across. But Chansey is a special sponge, and it can just stop any special attacker, and it also can handle your average to below average physical attackers too, with that Eviolite, which is why it's better than Blissey. Yeah, you have to fear knockoff, but simultaneously, knockoff is usually pretty easy to predict in most cases, right? So Chansey, in my opinion, do I agree with it dropping to tier 2? I would say so. We had it in tier 2 in season 4. We moved it up to tier 1 in season 5 after I took it to the championship, and then we actually moved it back down this season based on our voting system, because we didn't feel like it was that powerful of a tier 1, just because it is so predictable. It brings the same thing every week, but it's still a very good Pokemon.
That's true. Also, we have 2 Pokemon that went down, and I really think it's because of their abilities. We have Politoed and Ninetales moving down a tier, and I don't know if this was to discourage the use of weather, but these Pokemon did kind of move down, and I don't know, what's your opinions on these weather-inducing Pokemon moving down in their tiers?
Well, Ninetales I definitely see moving down to tier 3 because, Sun teams are very scary, but, you got traditionally just fire types and grass types are the main benefits from a Sun team, but rain teams, you got electric types, you got Tornadus Therian who can benefit from that hurricane, and water types, of course, and plus fire is neutered in the rain. And so it really helps defensively, especially since fire types are so offensive. Just giving something to your team to be able to counter a lot of those offensive threats is key. But, Politoed is a good mon. It is pretty decently bulky. But the fact that weather isn't permanent anymore, changing from Generation 5 to Generation 6, it makes it a little difficult trying to properly run a weather team, because you're constantly having to change out and reset the weather, or you have to run like a damp rock or the heat rock, and you have to make sure you have those items. So it's very conditional. It's one of those things that I can see why, but hey, now they're better value, so who knows.
Something I've also noticed with these weather teams is if your whole team is based around that weather team, it could really be predictable. You're basing your team building off weather. I feel like that's a huge thing. When you have a weather team, it's really hard to utilize a weather team when your opponent can easily predict and easily plan for a weather team. They know what mons take advantage of the weather, whether it's Swift Swim, whether it's whatever it is. You can tell what Pokemon are going to take advantage. So if you're not prepared, weather can destroy you. But if you are prepared, it's really hard for weather to destroy you.
Yeah, I want to weigh in here because I was, obviously the coaches here had the opportunity to vote for all these Pokemon, and that's how these tier shifts, began. And in the case of Politoed and Ninetales, we voted to move them down to encourage weather usage, because we felt that if exactly kind of what you guys said, if a team wanted to utilize weather, then go for it. A team built solely on weather is not going to be effective in the GBA. However, if you saw last year, Fizz, who in my opinion, the Atlanta Hawluchas had the best team last season in the format. Granted, he didn't win the championship, but he had, in my opinion, the best team and the hardest team to prep for, and he utilized Sand in addition to Sun with Charizard Y and Tyranitar. So it's going to be very interesting jumping into the draft here to see if there's going to be any teams that take advantage of things like Politoed and Ninetales dropping down and taking advantage of the weather. It opens up some more possibilities for rain teams, so now you can draft a Tornadus, Swampert, and Politoed all together without kind of expending all your points, things like that. So there are some opportunities for the weather teams. It's definitely going to be interesting, but ultimately the decision by the coaches to drop these Pokemon was more for experimental purposes, to say, hey, we've never really seen weather kill it in the GBA, but at the end of the day, we want entertaining battles. We want different battles to happen rather than your standard stuff, and that's what the GBA is all about. So we thought it would be experimental and interesting to see whether a team could draft a weather team and make it effective, or they would draft a pseudo weather team or something like that to kind of mix things up and stuff. So it was I would say, to speak on behalf of the coaches, it was a little bit of an experimental type of thing, but also we just felt that, first of all, Ninetales went undrafted for another season in a row, so we dropped it for that reason. Then Politoed, we just felt like unless you draft Politoed, Mega Swampert, and go full on rain, which is very predictable, we didn't expect it to do all that much. So that was kind of like the conclusion there, to get those Pokemon moved down and kind of encourage a little bit more weather usage.
Right. So let's jump into our debatable topic now. This is something that a lot of people I know do disagree on, and I kind of want to hear what your opinion on this is going to be. Our debatable topic is newcomers versus experts, because we do have some newcomer coaches coming in. Even though they have had experience, we do know a couple of them have had experience in the draft league format. They are coming back from a couple of seasons, while people like you, Dan, people like Fizz, people like Septile MC, they've been in here for a little while and they've had the experience. So is it kind of better for people to not know what you're going to do, how you're going to team build, or is it better to just have the experience and people kind of know what you're going to do?
I personally think the experience in the format itself is more valuable than the surprise factor, because a good coach who's accustomed to this format more times than not is going to be able to prepare for pretty much any style of play and prepare for most things. At the end of the day, when you're prepping for a GBA match, you're not prepping for what you think your opponent's going to bring. You're prepping to cover all the threats that your opponent has, in my opinion anyway. So as someone
that's the best way to team build.
Yeah, as someone who joined in Season 3 and got absolutely rocked and then went to 2 championships in a row in 4 and 5, I felt way more comfortable going into it my second draft, and I think that's the biggest factor here that makes the difference is, and I'm not discrediting any of the new coaches, they're all phenomenal battlers, but we've seen time and time again when new coaches come to the league, they're put into this draft situation and they've never drafted before. They draft the Pokemon that they're comfortable with, but they're maybe not be the best Pokemon for the counter team format. So it's going to be interesting to see how the new coaches adapt and stuff. I definitely think the advantage goes to the coaches who have been in the league for multiple years. You could even see it in someone like Old Man Top, for example, who improved drastically from one season to the next. So you really see it time and time again. People with the experience tend to do better, except for Steve. Tend to do better. So that's really, in my opinion, the biggest advantage.
I believe in Steve.
I believe in Steve too. So we happen to recruit, probably some of the best coaches we could have found for the season in terms of expansion teams. I mean, a couple of them are newcomers. Some of them are newcomers, but they've already played the format before. I mean, I fully expect, Chimp and MV and Tom and Coop and Sam, all of them to just really do well this season. I don't think there's going to be any slacking on any parts. I mean, the big holdup might be, the draft when it comes to someone like Chimp or MV, who might not have as much experience, but those guys know their way around competitive Pokemon. And at the end of the day, if you know how to do, competitive Pokemon, you know how to team build, and you draft a team that's going to work for you, then you're going to be effective more times than not, right? I mean, I think everyone's going to...
I'm actually
I think everyone we
super
have
excited.
Is going to be really good this season.
I'm excited for Tom. I'm actually really excited for Tom because he's been an analyst, and having, he, even though it seems like he has been out of it, he hasn't been in a draft league format as much as the other coaches, he has still been a part of the GBA watching everything. So I still kind of feel he has that experience in him a little bit.
Oh, most certainly. He's going to do just fine.
Yeah. So we're going to just slide away from this conversation and jump into a quick lightning round. So what I'm going to give you guys a topic, and you guys have to answer in less than 3 sentences. We're going to go from aDrive to Ospastic. If Bulky has something to say, we'll let him talk, but I know he's sick. And then we'll go to the next one. We got 5, right? So the first one goes like this. Last season, we saw Gym Leader Geo use an extremely creative set on a Pokemon that seemed very standard, being his Entei set. Do you think a coach will go over the edge this season on a creative set and build a completely horrible set?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think Geo has actually done something similar to that in a previous season too. So I don't think that was the first time I've ever seen Solar Beam Entei, but it was pretty amazing nevertheless. So anyway, I do think it's going to happen. I think it happens all the time. At least once a week, a coach tries to come up with something unique, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Steve brought Mirror Code Alamomola with Assault Vest against me, and it picked up a huge kill. But had I predicted that or something else happened, then it doesn't work. I mean, I think there's always room for that. There's always room for creativity, especially with people like Cooper in the league. And there's always, those berries that might work in those unique situations, things like that. I definitely think there's going to be a lot of instances of things working, and then just as many, if not more, instances of them not working. That's just kind of the format, in my opinion.
I definitely see a few coaches, like especially the returning coaches, getting into some creative sets. I mean, last season, we saw Miguel run Fire Blast Gorgeist, and everyone laughed at the idea, but honestly, it managed to put in some work. And with these the newcoming coaches, we have no idea what they're going to bring to the league-type format. I mean, we've seen them elsewhere. Like, I'm really excited for Chimpact to come in, because his prediction game is on point. So it's going to be interesting to see how it stacks up. But the interesting sets are part of what make the GBA so much fun to watch and something to look forward to every week, because you never know.
All right, Bulky, you got something to say, or we're gonna move on? All right, we'll move on. By the way, I just want to reiterate 3 sentences.
You can blame me. That's my fault.
All right, no worries. Let's just jump into the next one.
We have so
This
much
is
to
just
say.
I know, right?
Quick question. Let's go. Ready? Will this season be more competitive than the last, equally competitive, or less competitive?
1,000,000% more competitive. I don't even have to use my 3 sentences for this one. The guys in this league are insane. Like, I'm glad I won my championship when I did. That's it.
So much more competitive this season. I mean, it seems like the competition ramps up every season, and Season 6 is taking it to all new levels.
Yeah. Okay, next one. If the GBA were to hold a monotype Pokemon League, what type would you choose and why?
I would pick Fairy type. No, I would actually pick Bug type just because I like Bug types, but I would totally want to pick Fairy type.
Oh, you know how El Scissor loves that... No, you know how El Scissor likes that rock weakness. I mean, wait. Wait, aDrive, I just want to let you know that El Scissor is in this league, and he's got a ton of bug types, and the stealth rock weaknesses are real.
Oh, I know. I've seen that. I know what league he's in. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not saying I was gonna win with a bug type team. I'm just saying that's what I would pick.
Yeah, you have to. All right, Spastic.
Ground type. I mean,
Ground.
the electric immunity is key. I mean, slowing down that volt switching momentum. Plus, a lot of ground types have wide move pools, like Nidoking, Poison and Ground, my favorite Pokemon ever of all time. Such a wide move pool, so diverse, and a lot of other ground types are, like Hippowdon, can bring a lot to a team. So yeah, ground type.
Alright, okay. Now, in 3 sentences, explain to us about a Pokemon that does not receive enough credit for being as good as it actually is.
Oh man, that's on the spot though.
Yeah, that is. Think about it. Give yourself a couple seconds.
Right, I need a moment here.
Alright, I was thinking Emboar. Emboar is one of those firefighting starters that obviously is outshined by Blaziken and Infernape, but it actually can do really well. It has high HP. That thing straight counters a Weavile, as we saw last season with Miguel. I mean, Emboar, I do believe it was moved up this season, up a tier, and I think that's really good. Emboar should receive a little bit more credit. It can do things really well. I've actually run a special set. It has 100 base special attack, and the thing gets scald. Like, you know, that's crazy. So, aDrive?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with Emboar for sure. Very good Pokemon. Definitely needed to be moved up this season. A Pokemon that I think is phenomenal, or 2 Pokemon that I think are phenomenal that deserve, in my opinion, to be looked at as being like a first, 2 or 3 round pick is the Nidoking and Nidoqueen. Both of them are just phenomenal. The fact that they can hit from both sides, the fact that they can be bulky, the fact that they, with Sheer Force Life Orb, they absolutely tear through teams with some proper prediction, and their coverage is insane. Both incredibly great Pokemon to start a team with, and again, as I mentioned earlier, a ground type is usually essential for a team's success, and that covers your ground type, and it also covers your Fairy Killer too, so both really good Pokemon that I expect to go early in the draft.
That's great points. Lastly, we're going to talk about one last thing. I want you guys to create a new competitive held item. I'll let you know mine just to give you an idea. I know that I want a physical assault vest more than anyone in this world. Oh my god.
Yeah, the Riot Shield. Well, dang, now I need to think of something else.
I got a good one. So you could either adjust the current item, Air Balloon, or create a new item entirely that makes you immune to entry hazards for maybe 1 switch-in or maybe 2 switch-ins or whatever it is. I think that would really...
A consumable item.
What?
Like a consumable item?
Yeah, so it basically, exactly. Like you switch into Stealth Rocks or whatever, and instead of taking the Stealth Rocks damage, it would just consume the item, and maybe even remove the hazards. That might be a little too much, but at least making the Pokemon immune, I think, could open the door for a lot of Pokemon, especially utility Pokemon who may be entry hazard removers. Some of those defoggers that don't get any use because they have defog but have a 4 times weakness, or maybe just give something for Volcarona to have an opportunity to be better than it is, which is a good Pokemon, but obviously that that weakness really holds it back. Same with like Talon. I mean, Talonflame obviously would have actually Talonflame would be insane. You switch it on Stealth Rocks, that berry pops, and then you use Acrobatics.
Also Staraptor, all these birds. Oh my god!
But I think competitive Pokemon needs something like that, or at least wide distribution of Rapid Spin or Defog or another move in Sun and Moon to balance out entry hazards. Because right now, in my opinion, they're just a little too much.
Yo, make Defog a TM. What is up with this?
Move tutor.
Defog
That's it.
Needs to be
Just
a
make it
TM.
a move tutor.
Come on, something. Yes, you need something. All right. So I think that's okay. We got a Spastic. I don't think you said anything yet.
Well, no,
thinking.
I had the same idea with a defensive version of Assault Vest, but I'm trying to think of something else. Because like the way the game is right now, there's a lot of key items that really do. Actually, instead of adding a new item, I want to see them bring back the gems, like the flying gem, the fire gem, the bug gem. I want to see all of the gems return, because like
so much
that adds a whole nother level to the competition. Like a fire gem boosted eruption on a turn 1 is key. Or what's the water
There's
version?
so many things. Gems give so many potential, especially with unburdened Pokemon. We see Hitmonlee take advantage, but there's a lot of other Pokemon that can take advantage too of this kind of unburdened set. We have Hawlucha. So I mean, yeah, gems would change the game in my opinion.
Acrobatics Gliscor, let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then, lastly, we have this last segment. What's your thoughts on the league type format? You hear that phrase a lot. League type format. League format. But we want to hear your thoughts on one specific part. Whether it's you want to talk about like how the draft is, how we have separate tiers, the actual battles, the divisions, team building, like just a general thought quickly. Just why is the league type format so different than standard play?
So I think, first of all, I think the league type format is, in my opinion, the best, most competitive format to play Pokemon in, and to challenge your skill set and your team building and just the whole nine. I think it really captures what competitive Pokemon should be. Whereas and I'm not bashing on standard laddering or VGC because I respect those too, but I just don't think there's another format that competes with the GBA in how effective it is at really challenging each coach on building a unique team using unique Pokemon and really putting their skills to the test week after week in a match against some of the top competitors on YouTube. And I think the league format just really stands out, and it's why I love doing it so much. It's like my favorite thing to do on YouTube. I absolutely love it. So
Agreed. Great points. Yeah, the league type format is insane. Especially, I think a lot of people enjoy the draft just as much as the battles. The draft is the funnest part. Sniping, this, that. Just when that Pokemon just appears on the screen, you're like, oh my god, who drafted this monster? Who drafted this unexpected Pokemon? There's so much hype in a draft. And I think that's, for me, one of the funnest parts of these seasons that start. Just watching these drafts, having all these coaches build teams with different Pokemon. All these Pokemon are switched around each season. You don't know, how the team is going to end up looking, but they always end up looking amazing. So I feel like the draft is just an amazing part of the season and really bring the community together in a sense, and I think it's great.
My favorite part about draft league formats in any capacity is the fact that you don't run into duplicate Pokemon. I mean, yeah, you have like Mega Scissor and Base Scissor, but the fact that only one team has that Pokemon means that it's going to be creative and varied matches. You're not going to run into the same standard team every time you log on.
Right.
It's diverse, it's variable, it's unpredictable, but it's also, it breaks up the monotony big time.
Yeah, and also I gotta say, we had a comment on our tier draft video, someone saying, wait, where are the Mega Lotties? And I can't believe this person wanted 4 Lotties in our draft. I think that would be insane. That would not go well, but I think it's funny, yeah. Yeah,
the Eon Twins are crazy enough on their own. I know some leagues will allow the Mega Lotties if they have like a lot of coaches.
Diversity. Right, yeah. The diversity is great. I agree with all of that. So, any last words from any of you? Bulky, got anything left to say? Alright. Well, in that case, thank you all for coming by and watching this episode, the first one of Around the Rhyhorn, the pre-draft episode. That is all the time that we've got. thank you all for watching. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.